Hello and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. So today's topic is training, and we're going to discuss excitatory methods for mental focus. So actually, just a couple days ago in our social media pages, it's under the name Brutal Iron Gym, and we have pages on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. I pretty much post everything on Instagram, and it shares it with Facebook and Twitter, so I'm not on Twitter much, but we do have the information up there. And in a recent post, we discussed the use of an ice pack, okay, putting ice on a client's kind of like chest, like back of their neck, their belly, and their lower back, as a way to kind of wake them up because they were having kind of a rough day. So they came in underfed, under recovered. They kind of didn't get their warm up in, and they just really weren't mentally ready for the day. They were physically capable and more than ready and safe to do the workout. It was just they weren't there mentally. They needed to wake up, just kind of get into the moment. So using an ice pack, when you put that on the back of your neck or you put that on your belly or on your lower back, that's going to wake you up. That's going to be pretty miserable pretty quick. So it gets the body basically awake and get it moving. So the process of this is it's kind of like the client made the statement, I feel like my body's under attack. And in a sense, that's what we're trying to do is we're trying to ignite the fight or flight systems of the body and get the body producing adrenaline, endorphins, getting it kind of up and moving, getting it excited for the day. So that's prompted this podcast. And the reason why I wanted to mention it was there are different methods of excitatory methods. So, and there are muscular-based ones, there are non-muscular based. So excitatory methods that require muscles, require calories, require energy, and then there are ones that don't. And you would want to use each of the types of excitatory methods specifically for the situation that you are in. Either like how you find yourself that day. Maybe you're fed well, maybe you're not. Maybe you have, kind of like working around an injury or not. Maybe you're at a competition or not. So there are different scenarios where each type of excitatory method, like the general concept, kind of, I guess the kind of getting ahead of myself here. Each style of excitatory method would be beneficial. So it's good for us to know all of them and then in which situations which work best. So that's what we want to discuss today. We'll get into the muscular-based excitatory methods first. And the best way to get your body excited and woken up, or awake, whatever the hell the proper English is for that, the best way to get it awake for the day is to do a proper warm-up. So we've actually discussed warm-ups in one of our recent podcasts. So it was podcast number 407, Training, Importance and Benefits of Warm-ups. And we talked about the right way to muscularly warm yourself up. So that way your joints and muscles are ready for the workout. It also helps you produce the most adrenaline and endorphins and kind of gets your body chemically ready for the day. So adrenaline is a natural painkiller. And, adrenaline is kind of your aggressiveness. So it gets your body kind of aggressive, excited, and ready for the workout. Endorphins are the natural painkillers. So when you do a warm-up properly, there will be some muscular discomfort. There will be some muscle burn, maybe even some aerobic burn, but there will be some discomfort to a warm-up. It's a controllable level of discomfort in the sense that you're not wearing your body out for the main purpose of the day, but you are waking your body up. So you're getting the adrenaline produced, you're getting the endorphins produced. So a proper warm-up is actually the best way, the best kind of excitatory method. So if somebody is not doing warm-ups, which we talked about in podcast 407, they're extremely, extremely limited in their benefits of the day. Not only protective benefits, but also kind of productive benefits. So how strong they can be that day, like how much muscle damage are they be able to like absorb for aesthetic based training, maybe their endurance capabilities for the day. So without a proper warm up, you are not going to be properly prepared for the activity, and as you get into your main lift or your main activity, it'll be in the process of that being warmed up or the first half of it that your body would finally actually become ready, which is too late for a lot of people, especially elite athletes. So if you want to be your best, you want to be every ounce of as strong as you can be, you sure as hell do not want to wait until the big lift to be ready halfway through it. That's stupid. You want to be ready ahead of time. And that's what a proper warm-up can do. So a proper warm-up is by far absolutely what everybody should be doing. So everybody should already be using an excitatory method, whether you know it or not, because you're warming up. Other muscle-based excitatory methods are things like explosive training. So muscle-based, it is exactly what it sounds like. It means you're using your muscles. Where we have non-muscle-based ones, which we're going to talk about here in a second, but those are like smelling salts, caffeine, like the ice pack story that I told you about. But those are things that obviously don't use our muscles. They're just outside stimulants of some sort. So muscle-based means we're using our muscles, we're using some resources, we're getting our body up and moving through itself. So explosive training is a great way to do that as well. The reason why explosive training works well is you're going to be using sub-maximal weights, so that way it doesn't wear you out, beat you up, it doesn't overly use resources that are important, but you're going to use maximal effort, meaning it's going to wake up your nervous system. It's going to, again, further the production of adrenaline and endorphins and really, really, really get the body chemically ready. And that allows for that mental state of preparedness and excitatory kind of mental state. So explosive training, example of that would be like box jumps or like body weight jumps and bounds. Like a jump is kind of a vertical, bound is kind of horizontal jump. You can do banded jumps. So there's a form of training, I think it's called like triphasic training, but they'll use it in, I've seen it most commonly used in Division 1, like college sports and stuff, where they'll have like bands attached to a squat rack, but like way the hell above the athlete's head, maybe like 12, 13, 14, even higher feet above the person's head. And what the athlete will do is they're going to hold onto the band. The band will be anchored securely above their head. They're going to hold on to the band, kind of bend down and crouch down into a jump, like kind of a start of a jump position. And they're going to jump as high as they can, but the bands are also going to help them jump higher than they normally can. So the bands are going to assist the jump. What this does, it allows them to jump really high. And then when they land, they'll have to absorb that landing. Okay, so now the bands are helping again to take some of the weight off, but they have to land properly. When they jump, they're going to get what's called like triple extension of the ankle, knee, and hip. When they land, they're going to absorb the landing through the same mechanics, but just in reverse. But again, what this does is allows them to maximal jump. They can jump to the absolute utmost of their best ability, but it also allows them to be protected. So they can fire off the muscles as fast as they possibly can, and over time actually increase the ability to fire the muscles at a faster rate. So this builds explosiveness over time. So these are great things to do, like lower body ones, before like squats and deadlifts. And then for bench press, you can do banded presses. You can band the bar to the floor, like banding, and press against the bands very explosively. That's a great way to do it. You can do clapping push-ups if the person has strong enough wrists. You can also put like pads under the hands and whatnot. But clapping push-ups are push-ups where they push their upper body off the ground. That's a great explository type movement. And then also, this is going to sound odd, but doing heavy pull-up negatives is a great way to prepare yourself system-wise for a bench press. So we use our back and our biceps to help support our positioning and bench press control. So if you do a really heavy pull-up negatives, the heaviness of it and the resisting of the weight pulling your body to the bottom kind of excites the nervous system. And then also by activating the back of the biceps, they're more prepared before the bench press to help support the bench press positioning. So as goofy as that sounds, as heavy pull-up negatives can actually really help you be more prepared for bench pressing. So those are some examples. There are a lot. I mean, we could probably make a podcast just on those. Just examples of excitatory methods, explosive training before big lifts. But that's enough to kind of get your mind going and get you thinking some ideas. But that's the idea of muscular-based excitatory methods. Is we said like a general warm-up, which we discussed in podcast 407, and then explosive style training like box jumps, banded jumps, body weight jumps and bounds, banded presses, clapping push-ups, pull-up negatives, all that stuff. Okay, even deadlifting against bands can be a great way to build some explosiveness and get your body prepared before a big lift. So those are all muscle-based ones. And when they are best is when you're fully fed and you have some energy to spare. And this might be, for example, if you're trying to hit a big PR in training. And it doesn't have to be a 1 rep max. It can be a 5 rep max. It can just be whatever you're trying to improve on a previous performance. So that would be a personal record because it's an improvement on a past performance. And maybe you're doing like that just for squats that day. So you're fully fed, you have good rest, like recovery, you're coming into the workout ready to go. So you can kind of do a little bit of a crazy, kind of excitatory, explosive type stuff and still have enough food, enough energy to crush the squats. Whereas if you're a strength athlete and you're going to a powerlifting meet or a strongwoman kind of meet or competition, you maybe want to conserve some energy for the other lifts. So, for example, in a powerlifting meet, you have to squat, bench, and deadlift all in one day. In strongman events, strongman competitions, they typically have like 5 events. So you're doing a lot of activity in that day. So you might not want to use explosive style training before every single lift because it's just going to wear you the hell out. So it depends on what you have going on in that moment. So if the situation is you're working up to one extreme effort, then explosive training is probably okay to do. If you have to have multiple extreme efforts, such as powerlifting meets or strongman meets, you probably want to be careful of explosive style training. Okay? You should still do a good general warm-up. So that's already going to be some type of excitatory method there. And then now you can maybe look at adding non-muscular based excitatory methods. So what those are stimulants like caffeine. So caffeine can help wake up the nervous system and get you feeling like you have energy. So the downside is if you're really actually tired and you haven't had sleep, caffeine doesn't help that greatly. You just feel like kind of like a nervous energy rather than a good excited energy. So caffeine on top of good sleep and good food tends to work well. Caffeine instead of good food or sleep does usually not work well. And also for competitions, you want to avoid caffeine at the beginning of the competition because you have a long-ass day. So if you take caffeine at the very beginning of the competition and then it starts to wear off and your body's going to have a down, like it's going to have to come down from the high of caffeine, you do not want that down to be when you're still competing. So typically for powerlifting meets, when I coach athletes for those, we don't take caffeine until maybe bench press or deadlift. Very rarely do I ever want them to take caffeine for squats because they're already super nervous. They're going to feel jumpy kind of mentally, and they're going to have a hard time focusing. Caffeine does not help that. It makes that worse. And then also, if you take a shit ton of caffeine to get through squats, you're then going to have that down experience around bench and deadlift, and you're going to underperform for the day. So as much as powerlifters want to take caffeine for a false sense of security for squats, they should have absolutely avoid it and not do that. It's going to give them a better day overall. So caffeine is a non-muscular based excitatory method, but it's something that you have to use with caution. What about smelling salts? So smelling salts, we know, like ammonia capsules and stuff like that, they're super helpful. But again, there is a down to those. So the more frequent and the more intense of an excitatory method you use, the bigger down you have after it. So if I use smelling salts on all 3 attempts of squats, I'm going to start to wear myself out for the day. then I use smelling salts on all 3 attempts of my bench press, I'm going to be freaking tired by the time deadlift comes around because I just jacked my nervous system up and then let it come back down, jacked it up, let it come back down every time I use the smelling salts. So if I use 6 of them before I deadlift, that's stupid. So people who use smelling salts for warm-ups are dumbasses because they don't understand what they're doing and they're actually ruining their performance for the day. So you really should only use smelling salts for top end attempts. And again, I would typically not recommend them for squats. I would wait for bench and deadlift. And another reason why is squats tends to be a very technical exercise for most people in the sense that they are trying to remember very specific cues they want to get right. If you use smelling salts and you use them kind of correctly, they almost clear your mind because they're so damn miserable you can't think of anything but the pain. So if you're trying to remember cues and you sniff a big smelling salt, good luck. So you're going to go out and try to run that squat based on whatever your autopilot is in pure adrenaline without any kind of skill, which is not usually going to go well unless you're a very advanced athlete. So I would suggest skipping caffeine and smelling salts if you're going to do squats, okay? And that would be the same true of like strong men and strong women. I wouldn't use that stuff on the first event unless the first event happened to be like your worst one. Then maybe you can try it for that. But I would typically use caffeine and smelling salts, those type stimulants. I would use those later in the events, so later in the competition day. It's going to give you a chance to get through your nervous energy at the beginning of the day. And then when you no longer have that nervous energy going, you can then use the caffeine and smelling salts for energy. Okay? Then we said another example is those ice packs, which I gave an example of the client in the training program, in the training workout the other day. Another good story of that is I had an athlete once do a powerlifting meet in a CrossFit gym, and it was like 110 degrees in the gym, so which was bullshit because they advertised they'd have air conditioning. So we went there to try to set national records, and that was just a rough-ass day. But it was 110 degrees. They were damn near dying, having a heat stroke. So we bought those crushable ice packs that you can get from like pharmacies, like CVS pharmacy and stuff like that. And we were crushing those and putting it on the back of their neck to help them kind of feel cooler, first of all, bring their body temperature down a little bit, but then also give them that a little bit of excitedness to try to wake them up a little bit because they were having a rough time with how hot the facility was. So also we were drinking a shit ton of fluid with a ton of salt in it to try to keep them hydrated to protect their muscles. So that was just a really very irresponsible of the event promoter to have a lifting competition in 110 degree weather. So now you can argue a whole bunch of stuff around that, but I just didn't like it because they didn't advertise it to be that way. And if they had, we wouldn't have went. So that was why I was kind of bummed. And I was bummed for my athlete that they had to have such a miserable day whenever that wouldn't have been necessary. So other things we have is like cold water, obviously. So people think of like splashing cold water in their face. You can just dump your head under a sink and run really cold water down the back of your head and neck. That'll wake you the hell up really fast. So that's another good one to do. You can think of slapping of the skin. This is not necessarily where people like smack each other in the back. I'm not a big fan of that, but to each their own. What I more so mean by slapping of the skin is like if you were trying to, say before a squat, you slap your thighs like pretty hard, like let's say a good effort where it's going to sting a bit. That can help excite the nervous system, just like an ammonia or a smelling salt would. Another one we have, which I mentioned in the social media post that I would tell the story of, are thumbtacks. So I had torn some tissues in my hand, and at the time was having a hard time with grip. So my grip went from being able to hold, mid 6 to high 600 pound deadlifts to where I couldn't even hold 405. So I was having a hard time. The tissues I tore are in connection with my pinky and ring finger, which if you know about grip strength, pinky is the most important finger. So the fact that I tore the muscle to it kind of sucks. But I have since fixed it, rehabbed it, and have deadlifted 700 pounds. So I've gotten it stronger than it was before it was injured. But one of the days, I was trying to get the tissues of my hand, whatever was left, I was trying to get them to fire as best as I could. and I had read kind of the idea of using thumbtacks, which you actually literally just stab yourself in the hand with a thumbtack, and your body is then very aware of your hand because you just stabbed it, and it will, in a sense, excite the nerves around that area and give you a better chance of having full recruitment of those nerves. So for a deadlift workout once, I was stabbing myself in the hand with thumbtacks to see if it helped. And yes, it did help, but holy shit, that was not very comfortable at all. So, and the pain of that did not seem like it warranted the benefit. So I forget how many times I did it, but it was enough to be annoying. And like I had some bleeding and stuff, of course, but it was something that I wanted to see if it were an option in extreme cases, say like a competition. So if I was going for a PR of a deadlift on my third attempt, if I knew a thumbtack would help, then I'd jam the damn thing in my hand and I'd go for the big lift. So the pain of the thumbtacks will go away in days. The pain of not reaching my fullest genetic potential will live with me for life. So I don't give a shit about some thumbtacks in my hands if that's what it takes. So that's what I tried. That sucked, and how that hurt, and my hand hurt for like a week. But like I said, it was worth a try just to see if that was something that was going to be a make or break thing. So there's a strength coach that has a quote called basically "Leave no stone unturned," and the story is if there was $1 million under a stone, you were told that, okay, that under a stone in a parking lot is $1 million. And then you walk out in the parking lot and there's 1,000 stones. Well, for $1 million, wouldn't you turn over every stone? So you would leave no stone unturned if you were trying to find $1 million. So if you're trying to find how can I become my best, and somebody presents an option to you, you would turn that stone over. So if somebody said thumbtacks can help you be your best, then you would try it. Why not? If you truly want to be your best, right? So that was the idea of the thumbtacks. Now, that is not something I've ever used with a client, and I don't recommend it. But it was a good example of kind of if you're serious about wanting to be your best, you got to sometimes try some goofy shit. And also that concept of sometimes excitatory methods have the like, oh God, this is going to hurt, or oh, this is going to suck, it's going to take a lot of effort. Yeah, but if that minimal investment of effort lets you live with something that you're proud of for the rest of your life, well, shit, that's not, that's not even a trade-off to consider. Done. It's already done. What the hell? So if somebody told me I could deadlift 800 pounds if I stabbed my hands with thumbtacks, of course I'm going to do that. So I don't care. I want to deadlift 800 pounds. So it's just kind of having that mentality of not necessarily hurting yourself for life. That's not the point. The point is it's temporary pains to live with lifelong successes. So for example, getting up every day at 5 a.m. She can exercise before work. That's a temporary pain, but you get the lifelong benefit of good health. So we do this all the time. Every single day you wake up for work when you don't want to, that's a temporary pain for long-term benefit. When you get your paycheck and you can kind of afford the things you want to be able to afford in life. So we're used to that concept. Sometimes we just don't apply it well in our training. Okay? So non-muscular based excitatory methods are best when you want to conserve energy. So like we said, at a competition where you have a lot to go that day, you don't want to wear yourself out too early. And then also, maybe you're underfed, underslept, a little bit under-recovered, and you're coming into a workout, but you still want to do well. Then you can use non-muscular based excitatory methods and not worry about wearing yourself out too much since you're already feeling worn out. So these are some ideas that just kind of give you a place to start. Okay, give you some ideas to look into. What I feel the best use of excitatory methods is recognizing that you are strong or not, whether you use excitatory methods. So whether you take caffeine or not isn't going to really make the difference of whether you make a good squat. So say you're going to a competition, you want to hit a 500-pound squat, and you don't take caffeine, and you miss the squat, it wasn't because you didn't take caffeine. Okay, so excitatory methods are just things that help you they give you that smidge of a boost, that little bit of extra security, that little bit of extra effort and energy, but they are not crutches for you to lean on. So if you typically train with smelling salts and all of a sudden you go to a powerlifting meet and you don't have your smelling salts, don't be a big freaking baby and whine about it. Lift some heavy shit and just accomplish your goals, regardless. So use them when you have them, but don't rely on them and don't use them as excuses. That's bullshit. You're strong or you're not. And excitatory methods can just help you display your strength a little bit easier. Okay? That's the best way to think of them. So what I'd suggest you do is to practice some of these. So practice muscle-based excitatory methods. Practice a good warm-up, podcast number 407. And also practice some explosive training. So some banded stuff, maybe some box jumps, things like that, and see how your body responds. You can also practice non-muscular based ones. So you can try different types and amounts of caffeine. There are natural energies rather than just caffeine, like there's guarana root and all these other crazy shit. If you take a high dose of beta alanine, your skin will feel like it's going to rip off and it's super itchy, and that's a great way to wake yourself up. Doesn't sound good, but it does work. You can try smelling salts. You can try ice packs. Don't try the thumbtacks. You can try cold water, slapping of the skin, but try some of this stuff so that way you can see how well your body responds to it and which ones you prefer. So then when the situations come up that you're like, damn, I'd really love to be able to use one of those right now, you'll know which one's going to be best for you, and you'll already know to what degree and what amount works best for you. Okay? So practice it, have some fun with it. If you have any more specific questions, please reach out to us. Our email is brutalironjim@gmail.com, and we'll help you. Okay? But have some fun. So use these things to better your best, but remember that they are not crutches. You don't absolutely need them. You can still be your best. Okay? So just use them as icing on the cake. Cool. Okay, if you like the podcast, please share it with family and friends. The more people we help, the happier the world will be. Also, if you like this information, you can find more from us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Brutal Iron Gym. And if you have any questions, feedback, or suggestions, we'd love to hear from you. The podcast is for you, so we want to know what you want to learn about. You can tell us at our email at brutalironjim@gmail.com. As always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening. And thank you for watching.